Hey guys, welcome back to episode 4 of Tracking Your Life the Smart Way with Gemini AI. In this episode, we'll take a look at managing tasks and persisting the session state into durable files, think Excel, CSV, or JSON. And for all of those watching who don't know how to code, in the next episode, we'll implement user authentication, and then I'll be able to publish this app and anyone can access it. So then you can truly take your life tracker always with you on the go and record audio and keep track of your life, and eventually leverage it as a life coach on steroids. I'm still trying to figure out who's watching and what's my audience. If you prefer to have more vlog-style content, let me know. Or if you're more into coding, don't care about the vlogs, then we can just skip those. I hope you're ready to dive in. Let's go. In this episode, we'll take a look at managing tasks. So here we have our app again, which now also has a Tasks tab that we will be populating via our chat conversation with the AI or manually via the form. So let's go back to the chat section and let's try this out. My name is Mike. I'm a 30-year-old male living in Munich, Germany. Okay, so the background information has been added. It's the same that we saw in the last episode. Let's go back to the chat tab and let's add an input. I'm currently recording a video in my car. Okay, so this input has been successfully logged. Now let's try the new task functionality. On Saturday at 3 p.m. I need to go to the Essex store and buy new running shoes. Okay, so it added a log and a task. And now if we check the Tasks tab, we can also see that the deadline has been added correctly. So tomorrow is Saturday, the 7th of June, and 3 p.m. has been added as a deadline. Okay, let's go back to the chat tab and add some more information. My values are self-improvement, taking good care of my health, and being kind to strangers. Okay, so we can see this has been added as a log and also as a background information update. So let's try adding some more information. Later today, I plan to go swimming because it's really hot today. Okay, again, we see a log has been added, also a task has been created. So here in the Tasks tab, we can now see the go swimming task that we just created. Before we continue, let's take a look at the files that have been created under the hood. So like I said in the beginning, we will be adding data persistence. So here's our code editor. Then here we can see the background information. Here we can see the input logs as a CSV file. And here are the tasks that we added. Also, all this data is saved even if we refresh the app. So here we see the session state has been lost, but the input logs and the tasks and the background information are still there. Okay, so now that we have tasks, you might be wondering, what can we do with the tasks? So of course, we can change the status of our tasks. There are 3 options, either open, in progress, or completed. And we can change the status here in the UI manually by selecting the status and then saving it. But we can also go back to the chat section and then say something like, I just went swimming. And you can see the log has been added and also the task has been completed. So now we see the status has been changed to completed. This is also reflected in our CSV file, which we can see here. But not only can we change the status of tasks, we can also ask the AI to list all open tasks. So let's go back to the chat section and let's say, can you tell me all my open tasks? And then we see all our open tasks here. So the swimming task is not here anymore that we just completed, but there's still the other task that we added before. Okay, so let's refresh the app. And let's add our communication preference with the AI. I want you to be direct and brutally honest. I want you to take the role of a tough love mentor. Okay, so we see a log has been added and also the background information has been updated, which we can see here. So let's try this out in practice. My challenge is to plan ahead more proactively. Okay, so let's quickly refresh the session state. And let's ask the AI, given what you know about me, I want to improve my public speaking. Can you give me some suggestions? And then we can see it gives us brutally honest, no sugarcoating advice, which is exactly what we wanted from it. Okay, so much for the demo. Let's take a look at the updated README, which you can see here. So this task tab has been added. We can view, add, delete, or edit tasks. And the same thing can be done via chat by asking the AI. So now the AI can manage tasks via function calling. So it can add, update, and list, which makes the interaction much more dynamic and context aware. Also, we persisted the data from the session state into CSV and JSON files that we took a look at earlier. Okay, let's check what actually changed in the code. We now have a Docker Compose file, which we can see here. So this is just making sure that we can access the data from the Docker container via a volume mount. If we wouldn't add this, then the data would live inside the Docker container and we would not be able to access it. So again, to build and start a Docker container, you would just run Docker Compose up like this. Then you can access your application. To stop the Docker container, you would just do Docker Compose down. Regarding the code, we now have the file persistence as CSV files or JSON files and this newly introduced Tasks tab. Also, the functions have been renamed and refactored a bit, and we have this new update tasks and persists function that we didn't have before. And this function can be accessed by the LM by this new manage tasks tool definition. Okay, before we dive into the code, let's take a look at the updated Mermaid diagram. So what's new? We have this Tasks tab, where we can either add new tasks manually through the form or make changes and save them, like the status update that I showcased. And both of these call the save task function underneath. The same is the case for the input log section, so we can save modifications or add new entries, which are then persisted to a CSV file. And the same is the case for the background info tab. The chat functionality has just been enriched by this new function call, which you can see here, manage tasks. So now we have 3 function calls: add log entry, update background info, and manage tasks, which the LM can intelligently call. Or if it decides to not call a function, we can have a direct text response. Like when we asked it about the public speaking advice, it just made a reference to our stored data and gave us advice. So there was no function call needed. And typically, the more and more information you provide the LM with, the less function calls it has to make, because it already knows more about you. And most of the interactions will be just text responses or adding log entries, with some occasionally added tasks. And there are updates, of course. And the session state persistence happens down here. So again, like showcase, we have CSV files and JSON files. Okay, so this is already the updated Mermaid diagram. Now let's go back to the code. Let's start with the Streamlit frontend again, where we have new functions for adding, updating, and loading of input logs, tasks, and background info. Okay, first of all, let's take a look at the updated session state management, which we can see here. So we load any existing input logs, any existing background info, any existing tasks. And if there are none, then this will just be empty. And then we also have this new tasks tab here, which we can see below. So again, if there are no tasks, then we just display this information message. And if there are tasks, then we display them via a Streamlit data editor. And we also have this input form, which we can see here. So we can add a task description and also a deadline. So a deadline consists of a date and a time. And the default is just 7 days ahead at 12 p.m. Okay, so these are already all the front-end changes. Let's go to the backend. And let's take a look at this update tasks and persists function. So this one here is just used for creating new tasks. So this one is actually very simple. It just takes the data from the data editor and saves the tasks. The interesting part happens in the add task and persist. So this function is either called by the LM via the chat or via the form when you add a task description and a deadline. Okay, so let's take a look. Okay, so we take the task description, the task ID, if we're updating, and the deadline. And then here we have some deadline passing and error handling. And the interesting part happens here. So here we define a new task and we save it if the action is add. And when we're updating tasks, like changing the status, we do this here. And the third option is to list tasks. So this just takes a look at all the open or in progress tasks and returns it to the user. Okay, so this is a low-level function, but how does the AI actually use this? And for that, we look at the function declaration here on the top. So we have this new manage tasks function that can either add, update, or list tasks and expects an action. So add, update, or list, a task description if you're adding, a task ID if you're updating, and also a task status if you're updating, so typically in progress or completed, and a deadline if you're adding a new task, and this has to be provided in a ISO format. And out of these attributes, only the action is required, because you can either add or update or list, and each have their own requirements. Okay, so after we define the function, we also add it to our chat tool, which we can see here. So the chat tool is just a list of all the tools that the LLM can use. Okay, so now with the function declaration out of the way, we also have data persistence. So here you can define the file paths where you want to save your data as CSV or JSON. Typically use a data folder for that. So that's why the prefix here was chosen, but you can also name it differently, of course. And then here we have some internal functions for handling the saving and loading. So these are mostly pandas operations like toCSV or readCSV. That's nothing special. Okay, so that's already all that's new for tasks and storage. What's also new is the change in the prompt. So here we can see the function calling rules that tell the LM when to call which function. So again, either a log entry or a background information update, like we had in the last episode. And now also instructions when to call the task function. But we can not only call single functions, we can also call multiple functions in one turn. So here's an example. I'm feeling productive today. I'm going to draft a project proposal this morning. This new focus on time blocking is really helping my productivity, which we can split into a log entry call and a manage tasks function call. But we can also do all 3 function calls at the same time, like adding log entries, managing tasks with an update. Like when you completed your presentation slides, you would set the status to completed. And at the same time, if you realize your goal has changed, you can also call the update background info function at the same time. Okay, so these are already all the code changes. If you want to try this out yourself, you can just get the code from GitHub, which I'll link in the description. So we have this branch here where you can get the code and then just start your application with Docker, run it in localhost, and add some input logs, some tasks, and your background info, and then you can experience how the AI provides you very personalized advice. Maybe you also enjoy this brutally honest, no sugarcoating advice or something else, or you prefer a more friendly approach. Just try it out yourself. So in the next episode, I'm planning to add a user authentication where you can sign in with your Google account, it takes your profile, and then you also have this input logging streak feature, so it tracks how many inputs you have on each day, and encourages you to track more so that the AI can learn more about your interests, daily activities, and help you become more efficient and effective. And if there's still some time, we'll also look into a newsletter feature where you can track your daily mood and also subscribe or unsubscribe from the newsletter. Okay, I hope you guys are excited for this. Let me know in the comments if there's anything you'd like to know on top of this. Leave a like, subscribe, and see you in the next episode. Bye-bye.